That is audible plane activity as I start recording my podcast. That's monitoring, maintaining real-time awareness of what I'm doing on my phone. I did take a picture of what is my shadow appearing underneath as I'm sitting at the shaded walkway. And what I'm also taking a picture of is the presence of the state's fake sun. And you want to note the time. It's 8:52 a.m. Understand this is before it is captured just earlier, 24 hours earlier, at around, I believe, I start recording my podcast at 9:17 a.m. as the UPS plane, a commercial-sized UPS plane, flies over my head at the third-party facilitating venue of 435 South Bonneview, Mercy House, where they are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. I am what is an entirely distinct location from there. Understand the state's light source being at that location directly over me, and as I am standing at the front door, as I'm clearly capturing the state's fake sun over my head and the plane activity at that same targeted location. Understand the state's light source as I capture in video and images remaining for that duration of my time at that property, and then I capture what is the state remaining with its light source as I leave that property and return to what is the site of the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library. This is the light source that is present. This is the indication of what the state of California is engaged in, because this is impossible to coexist. This is stalking with light. You are stalking with light when you're monitoring via communication devices. This is that which is engaged in by a public entity and does so via the people of the state. This is why you're stalking with such a massive light source in the sky. This is also why you stalk with light activity, which is what Ontario police were engaged in at the intersection of Plum and Holt. Plum and Holt Boulevard at or around 8:20 a.m. in relevant position, using that Ontario police vehicle for purposes of light activity, in alignment to where I was inside of what is a public establishment, Ontario Health Center, inside of that private space, which is the bathroom, where the state is outside of that private space in relevant position, creating light activity under what is the state's fake sun. Understand, I've already documented where the state's fake sun is in the morning, where I'm at the museum, and that is where the state's fake sun was at that time. As I'm walking east on Holt Boulevard, the state's fake sun hovering over, Ontario police engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring, and that is the sexual violent conduct. It is also criminal facilitation, as group stalkers are patrolling via traffic and on foot, and are in relevant position both inside of Ontario Health Center and in relevant position in every other venue surrounding. And the state is monitoring via aircraft and helicopter, which is also already established. The state's fake sun present right now, before the time that I've shown it was present 24 hours earlier at 435 South Bonneview, is called impossible light activity. The state is stalking with its light source, maintaining light over me, molesting with light, all right? Not only is the state monitoring, it is engaged in what is ongoing sexual violence while it is molesting with light, because it is monitoring, all right? Engaging in what is audible activity, stalking via aircraft, which is what this is. That's audible activity. And that is the state, very targeted in its location, not flying over my head at 435 South Bonneview, flying over this location, just like I showed in my video last night, where the state was flying not over 280 North Lemon Apartments, as I'm sitting at the side of Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, targeted. As I move from that location, it is flying over the Metro Apartments, right where I am located. That's why I took a picture of that third-party license plate and that white vehicle. He is crossing path, touching with light, as the state is flying over my head. So as the state is flying over my head, he has parked his car, and he's sitting in his car with lights on, creating light activity in the path, acting with the state that's flying over. Flying over, mind you, not over 280 North Lemon, as I capture in picture after picture and video after video everywhere that I'm at, engaging in that ongoing stalking via aircraft, okay? This is that which is impossible to coexist. It's not 9:17 yet. The state's fake sun present over the bathroom in the afternoon as third-party group stalker Miss Judy under the state's fake sun is crossing path, engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring, while another plane is not flying over the doorway as I'm standing in front of the door of 435 South Bonneview. It's flying over me where I'm standing next to the bathroom, and the state's fake sun is captured in that distinctly different location as I am behind the front door. And as I've explained in my podcast, those are it is distinct, and you can clearly see how it is in an entirely different location. So that is the remaining of that light source, remaining over that property and moving around. And it is also here the next day, what is over the senior center. And understand that is impossible to coexist. This is that which I've already published and already established. Understand what Ontario police are engaged in. Not only are they aware of that which I am establishing as federal legislation, that is the malice with which they intend to try to inflict sexual violence and a form of harm, as they are aware of what I am creating as for purposes of prosecution. That is engagement in the criminal elements. And the state, acting directly via Ontario police, relying on, I don't even think they're relying on, they're just engaging in blatant criminal conduct and are literally, it's pathetic. But nonetheless, this is how you prosecute the public entity, relying on that which is the outward form of what is presumed to be legitimate conduct, and that is a non-existent reliance by the state. Understand, federal prosecution is the removal of any presumption of legitimacy. You have what is the state engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring, and upon the state, the target individual establishing a prima facie case of federal group stalking and monitoring by a public entity, the police have no such presumption. You are showing all the ways in which they are monitoring you upon establishing that pattern of conduct, and that's exactly what Ontario police were engaged in, and doing so with a third-party group stalker who is also standing at the corner, submitting to what is some sort of arrest or shakedown, whatever it is, they're in relevant position under the state's fake sun. The state's location of its light source, as I am in motion, is already established. The state's conflicting locations of its light source and remaining for the entirety of the day is already established. And this is that which is occurring as I'm walking down the street, leaving from the museum where the state's fake sun is, located above me while I'm there, already documented published conduct. I'm moving as I'm walking down Holt Boulevard, already established published criminal conduct, as it is stalking with light. So the state is engaging in, that is the police, engaging in sexual violence, that is the creation of light activity in relevant position while I'm inside of a private space, while they maintain real-time ongoing knowledge as to what I am doing while I am physically indisposed, engaging in criminal facilitation via that light activity, using their emergency, using that police vehicle, all right? This is the same thing that the fire trucks and the ambulance do, all right, for purposes of monitoring by the entirety of the group under what is the fake sun. And that is how you are getting down to the elements, and the state has no presumption whatsoever of legitimacy, and that is a prosecution of the state. It is, and again, that was at 8:20 a.m. as I am exiting Ontario Health Center, and I am walking on Hope Boulevard, and then I walk to what is the side of the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library. Let's be clear, YouTube, which is Google, engaged in more than one form of criminal obstruction of justice. This is the substance of that which I also spoke to and dictated in my video published on February 23rd at 5 p.m., where the state's fake sun is in the same position. Understand, being over the senior center and remaining over 280 North Lemon Apartments is the same position, and as I was pointing out in that video, it literally remains in a line over the senior center to the edge of 280 North Lemon Apartments and aiming light for the entirety of the day, remaining in the exact same position for the entirety of that day while I am here. That is called impossible light activity. That is not the sun. That is stalking with light. That also does not coexist with being present over 435 South Bonneview at any time of the day and then engaging in setting over 280 North Lemon Apartments, while also directing what is impossible light activity inside of Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, mind you, underneath the structure above the entrance doors, aiming light inside of the bathroom at the bottom of the door. That's what I'm showing. It's reflecting. It's so bright it's reflecting inside. This is P.O.C. And this is how you are getting to what the state is engaged in, as the state relies on the outward guise under which it is engaged in corporate criminal conduct. This is how a public entity monitors. That's how the public entity monitors, and the public entity also monitors via third parties such as Google and YouTube, engaging in criminal obstruction of justice, removing that evidence against that public entity, which is posing a direct threat to the life, physical safety, and overall well-being of that target individual subject to ongoing criminal activity. That is the documentation against Google and YouTube, a third party engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. All right. It is 9:01 a.m. and that is the image that I took, the state's fake sun over the senior center where I am, the state flying over where I am located, the state acting pursuant to Ontario police, engaging in the elements of criminal monitoring while inside of a private space, which is both monitoring and it is also speaking to what is the sexual violence inherent to federal group stalking and monitoring, which is conduct by a group. They're all corporately listening. They're all aware of what you're doing inside of that private space and creating light activity in such manners, using their vehicles and using what is a fake sun to remain over that environment, to remain over the targeted individual while they are inside of that private space. That's P.O.C. It's 9:02 a.m. Alrighty. Audible activity. And and that's amplified audible activity. Meaning that is literally the state applying a microphone to its plane activity that it is creating for the purpose of monitoring under its fake sun. On cue, as I say that's P.O.C. and I press the button on my phone, the state is engaging in creating that audible activity. So I just press record again so you can hear that. That's called stalking. That's called amplification of audible activity, serves for massive monitoring, and that is P.O.C. All right? Again, it is 9:03 a.m., and that's P.O.C. All right, I did capture images this morning of the presence of the state's light source, which is under the guise of a sun. That is not the sun, and that is what the documentation establishes based on those remaining conduct, that following conduct of this light source at all locations at the same time. And this is a direct contrast between what is 435 South Bonneview at Ontario and the state's light source, what is 24 hours later, where it was squarely over and moving at that property as I captured in video. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm just laughing because it is so pathetic. And the state, while it is monitoring my activity on my phone, which is specifically going through my documentation of what is third-party facilitation on the venue of the internet, which is group stalking and monitoring on the internet, which is in violation of existing federal law, by the way, engaging in monitoring conduct on that venue of the internet, engaging in what is criminal obstruction, seeking to obstruct the ability to publish, and engaging in tactics such as slowing down internet, such as disconnecting Wi-Fi. And this is that which is a pattern of conduct, and the state engaging in that while I'm literally reviewing videos of that which I have accumulated over a prolonged period of time. The state literally starts sounding its sirens and turning off the city Wi-Fi in order to stop my ability to look at the video. I mean, it is literally pathetic. But this is the pathetic entity that is monitoring, engaged in an unprecedented level of criminal conduct that is directly threatening the life, physical safety, and overall well-being. These are the tactics that it engages in while it is monitoring the documentation. This is going to what? That irrebuttable presumption of public corruption. The state in no way has any presumption of legitimacy upon establishing that P.O.C. And that is ongoing audible activity while the state is flying over the same location under its light source, which, by the way, is not near the senior center. It's right here where I'm standing, and I captured that in video and in a picture so you can see it, which is distinct. You're going to pay attention to that nuance. And this is the environment that is in every way incriminating and revealing the reality of what psychopaths are engaged in corporately and intentionally. That is speaking to the environment the police are engaged in, using their vehicles as light in relevant position to me while the state is stalking with a light source. There is your intent right there. They can engage in pulling a body out of an apartment building under the fake sun. There is your intent right there. They engage in arresting anybody, pulling somebody over under a fake sun. That is your intent right there. And doing so while the state is engaged in that ongoing pattern of stalking via plane and helicopter, which is also very targeted as well everywhere that I go, literally on a daily basis. That's the absence of coincidence. There's your intent right there. This is it's 12:22 right now, and I captured the video about 4 to 5 minutes ago. And this is a distinctly different and impossible to coexist at the same time as it is in the same position directly over my head as I am facing south at 215 East C Street, Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, while at the same time, 24 hours earlier, while I am at 435 South Bonneview, standing on the property facing south, okay, and capturing what is the state's fake sun at that property and remaining, and then moving to be here where I am here over my head, maintaining that same position, aiming directed light inside of the venue, which is the library, as I am inside of there. That is P.O.C. And this is speaking to what the people of the state of California are engaged in. Remember, this is why you are honing in on the environment and seeing what the state is doing for purposes of massive monitoring. And this is that which is uniform everywhere that I go, everywhere that the target individual goes. And so that is what I captured in video. That's what you are looking at. That's the substance of what the people of the state of California are engaged in, and understand the people are sex offenders, aware of the fact that they are maintaining group presence under that light source, aware of the fact that directed light is all over the place while they are maintaining presence in and around the path. That's called concerted conduct. And it is also an ongoing form of unlawful touching on a systematic basis. They are sex offenders under federal group stalking law. And this is the how you prosecute, and this is also how you identify and expose the government's tactics for monitoring, which is supposed to be surreptitious. And so you are looking at, first of all, what controls the elements control, because the government is acting maliciously. It is engaged in surreptitious creation of a deliberately designed environment for monitoring American citizens and acting via the people of the state. It is a sick system, and they are sex offenders engaged in complete disregard of the rights of the targeted individual, while, mind you, the psychopaths are listening to their very criminal conduct as they are engaging in that system. That is a sicko, and that is shared by the group, okay? The government that's operating the system and the government that's acting through the people of the state engaged full throttle in that system. All right. It's 12:25 p.m. and what I published on third-party facilitating venue YouTube, a group stalker engaged, and understand, group stalker is based on conduct. So you are not going to say, I'm nowhere near Erica Lorraine Spencer or the targeted individual, whoever that is. I don't even know what you're talking about. This is how you federally prosecute, because it is not based only on being in relevant position. It's based on any conduct in conformity to that public entity's pattern of conduct. Remember, the government is the one that is stalking, and the government is stalking vicariously through the people of the state. The people of the state are not only individuals. They are one group, and they act under the guise of any guise. I've literally shown you how the same exact elements remain and how those hallmarks are maintained while they are inside of any commercial vehicle, inside of any public establishment, conducting any business where all the elements are being simultaneously engaged in while the state is stalking by plane, helicopter, police, fire, and ambulance under its fake sun, while directed, which is engineered light, is remaining present and all over the surfaces around. All right. That is the prosecution of that public entity. And so a third party group stalker, which is YouTube, which is Google, engaged in the state's pattern of conduct, is prosecuted and identified as such, because the state system is malicious, and its entire premise is based on what you're acting like, who you are, what you look like, what it looks like you're doing, and how you don't know the target individual personally because you're not addressing them, because you're appearing to be engaged in something else, and all of that is legally irrelevant. You are looking at how the public entity operates, and that is also what you are understanding. It is public corruption in plain sight. It is also demonic activity manifest, right? Demonic activity is entirely demented, and this is demented conduct engaged in corporately by a group that is acting together for a criminal purpose, and that is monitoring with communication devices, and that is in violation of existing federal law. 18 U.S.C. section 2261A, subsections 1 and subsections 2, they're monitoring with communication devices, and they are doing so on the venue of the internet and YouTube/Google, engaging in threatening my life, because that's what they are doing. That is the legal analysis behind the conduct when you are acting with a government that is monitoring an American citizen, and that's the substance of what YouTube has routinely engaged in. Not just yesterday, February 24th, 2021, when they placed a blockage, any form, I don't care how minor you may claim it is, they have no right whatsoever to place any restriction on it, not only because it's not in violation of their rules, their community guidelines. They're criminals and they're hypocrites, and they are group stalkers, and they're acting on the venue of the internet, and they are helping the government to threaten the life, physical safety, and overall well-being while it is engaged in monitoring American citizens for no legitimate purpose whatsoever. It is sick criminal conduct, period. That's it. And you are engaging in any conduct that's facilitating that, you will be prosecuted as such. There is no legal defense. There is no no legal excuse whatsoever for engaging in P.O.C. in relevant position or on the venue of the internet. This is how a public entity, i.e. a government, speaks, acts, and maintains presence. That is how it operates. It is 12:28 p.m. and that is the state's fake sun, remaining what is impossible to coexist with being directly over the building as it is clearly captured and as it remained while I was at 435 South Bonneview and I am at 215 East C Street. And this is that which I have already established, and this is speaking to my focus on it. My focus is on the people of the state who are malicious actors. They're criminals and they're sex offenders and they're group stalkers, and they are vicariously and intentionally and maliciously acting in concert with that public entity. It's 12:29 p.m. and that's what I captured in pictures and images. I'm sorry, in pictures and video. That is P.O.C.